most households, my personal experience, like if I were to try to talk to my dad about like whenever I ask my dad how you doing, I will always get the same response. I'm good. It was the same thing always.
And
it's
like
I know
a straight line.
like life is like going.
Yeah. Life doesn't go up or down. It's just like everything's always good.
I was wondering if you notice any specific trends or any kind of behaviors or habits that you think are not helpful for us to like continue to move forward and grow.
Sure. I mean, now this goes deep because there's a lot, right? There's a lot that we do. I'm going to try very, very hard to not go off on a tangent or in the soapbox because this is something I'm very, very passionate about. But when we talk about men, right? Number one, I think a lot about as it starts when we're young. When we're very, very young, in a lot of the environments that we grow up in. And interestingly enough, I've been fortunate enough to know a lot of people from a lot of different parts of the world. And it's been my experience talking and asking a lot of them what it's like growing up in their particular environments with their family dynamics and what have you. And an interesting fact I've noticed from many of them is that they don't seem to come from backgrounds where their fathers were very emotionally available to them. In many of our households, it's very traditional. Fathers provide, mothers are the ones who give that emotional availability and access, right? Now, why am I even making that point? Why do I even think that that's important? Because it very much limits our ability as men to be more than just that provider role. It doesn't allow us to grow beyond that, number one. And then number two, when it comes to like relationship building, right? So whether it's you want to have a romantic partner, if you have a child, like I have a son, if you're trying to build relationships with people, you have to be willing to have a certain level of vulnerability with them in order to create strong bonds, right? Well, what happens if I don't get that opportunity when I'm young? And every time I do try to initiate, I get shut down. Over time, I'm slowly learning that it's not okay. I'm slowly learning it's not appropriate. So then I have fundamental difficulties every time I'm trying to build a relationship with somebody. I don't know how to communicate well. I don't know how to be vulnerable well. So you can imagine that's why we hear a lot of stories about people say like, oh, we want men to be more open. But then at the same time, we're not always given the space and the opportunity to do that. And I find that, not that everybody's doing this intentionally, but sometimes it can feel disingenuous. Because I want to be able to go there, but you got to help me to go there. You have to help me be there, right? Be invited, right? Reason why you and I are talking is because you invited me here. And we had a very honest discussion. And I'm hoping that this is creating that space for others to recognize that this is important and this is necessary. But for many of us, we don't get this space to do that. So it starts when we're young. The earlier we intervene and we make this feel normal, we make this feel appropriate and comfortable, the better off we're going to be. Because when you're older, it's harder. Like, take it from me as a therapist. I've had to go through so much therapy to finally be able to be more in touch with myself. Because I've been programmed for so long because of the way I grew up with my father to keep that stuff to myself. And it's just, it can lead to so much unnecessary hardship. And as a therapist, I'm always trying to prevent that, man. So it's hard for me. It's a very interesting dynamic that we have in today's society. And I want to help change it.
Dude, everything, like what you're saying is so powerful. And I think that's why this conversation is so important, because we're able to allow people to understand that, like, hey, we need to create that space. Like it's necessary. And it's a lot harder for us to really move into that healing and to, letting go of all that conditioning that's been put onto us for decades and decades and decades. But knowing that you're not alone and that and by talking about it to other people and talking to other people who support you, then that's when we can actually let go of all of those, like, basically generational traumas are holding us back. I love the verbiage that you used. I think that was very concise, and I believe we added a lot of clarity around not the issue, but the situation that's currently happening in our communities. Because it's something that's really common, and in most households, my personal experience, like if I were to try to talk to my dad about like whenever I ask my dad how you doing, I will always get the same response. I'm good. It was the same thing always.
Right.
And
It's
I
like a
know
straight line.
like life is like going.
Yeah. Life doesn't go up or down. It's just like everything's always good.